Hello, everyone. This is our intermission between part one and part two of trauma-informed art therapy, and we're going to talk about body practice and trauma. Working with physical health is the bread and butter of my practice as a nurse, so I put this together for your enjoyment and exploration. Take what you like, leave the rest, and always work under the guidance of a professional that's holding your whole health picture to know the right recommendations for diet and exercise for you. We talked in part one about the living legacy of trauma, and now we're going to dive in a little bit more into how trauma impacts the body, trauma-induced neurotypes, and how we can regulate our nervous system from the outside in using some of the body's natural switches and levers. And we'll end this video with a brief yoga practice. Recovering from trauma is mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical. So like we talked in part one, when we carry unresolved trauma, the threat of that trauma doesn't register as being over, and this registers in the body, impacting our natural physiological set points to be in fight or flight. So we're going to dive into what we can do to help restore physical health and work with the body in our trauma healing journey. So our bodies have a really elaborate and well orchestrated response to stress. One of the main axes that guides our stress response is called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. That's a mouthful. Basically, what that means is there's a center of our brains that connects to our adrenal glands that secretes cortisol and a few other chemicals that impact a lot of systems. And like we learned in part one, our amygdala becomes overactive in trauma. And in the body, our adrenals can actually become overactive and can shut down our immune system, and we can actually change a lot of our physical systems and organs when we're exposed to stress long term. So if you want to pause the slide, there's more detailed information, but that's the nuts and bolts of it. Not all stress is bad, but stress in the long term can contribute to a lot of disease progressions. So our short-term stress response ups our blood pressure, ups our blood sugar, ups our heart rate, gets our adrenals flowing, which changes many aspects of our physiology, and has a major impact on our immune system, suppressing it over the long term. So this is a lot of information here, but this is just to say that by really getting serious about the stress in our life and our mental health, we can actually impact our physical health and vice versa. Taking care of our physical health can really do a lot to support the well-being of our mind and heart and spirit. I'm revisiting here a slide from part one. So we have the 6 nervous system states on the left. So one is within a person's window of tolerance, and the other is outside of a person's window of tolerance. So when somebody is within their window of tolerance, not in distress, not carrying significant trauma, that's activated. Our natural set point, we're social beings, so we're designed to be in connection with with others and with the natural world. When we get activated, it feels like motivation. It feels playful. When we have falling energy, um, we might feel sleepy or ready for intimacy, and that's kind of the arc of energy flow in a non-distressed state. And then on the flip side, you have the distressed state of the nervous system. So a nervous system in distress can be chronically people-pleasing and fawning, instead of having that social, social connectivity baseline. Instead of feeling playful, people can get stuck in fight or flight, and that's a kind of activation. And then crash, instead of feeling sleepy or ready for intimacy, the kind of harder crash outside the window of tolerance can be a total shutdown or disconnect. And why I bring this up, this is of course related to long-term living with trauma long-term as a trigger. We buy real estate and build our houses metaphorically on one of these 6 squares. So we have a habitual psychological set point that also becomes a physiological set point, be it in fight or flight or shutdown. We can really like to hang out on one of these 6 squares, and carrying significant trauma, it can often be on the right side, not the left side. And um, one thing that I want to underscore more than anything else is that when our home is built on the square on the right side, dipping into the safe, non-distressed, calmer states on the left can feel scary, it can feel dangerous, it can feel like a threat. And that is kind of a natural, expected part of trauma healing, of some of the vulnerability that comes up when we might want to feel playful, when we are around people who just have that normal, healthy baseline for social connection. Um, so it's something to anticipate, and resetting where we build our house, building a second house with time on a square that we want to be on. It takes time, and working with the body can help speed that process and stabilize that process. Typical stress comes from having a lack of sense of control or choice. In French, imprévu, things that we didn't see coming. New things, even though it could be good, it's still stressful, like a new job. Feeling that our sense of self is threatened. Um, these cause stress in the human system, and these can be part of the daily experience of an abusive or neglectful home. And our nervous system can, again, build a home and its real estate as its set point physiologically and psychologically in a distressed place. And this contributes to developing a disease burden, a higher risk for chronic diseases over time. So I bring this up just to say, like, you know, taking care of our physical health in a trauma healing journey is really, really vital to reversing some of these processes. Much of what's called the allostatic load, of just kind of those repeated assaults to the system, actually come from trying to cope intuitively with unprocessed and unstabilized trauma. A lot of energy gets burned up here that we might not even be aware of because it's habitual. So it's really worth the effort to learn how to cope consciously in different ways. When we know better, we do better. We need support for changing, but it is possible. So starting to have a choice in how we cope really starts with more of awareness of the window of tolerance and different areas that we have to stabilize in phase 1 of a trauma healing journey. So um, feeling emotionally overwhelmed and doing impulsive things to deal with the emotional overwhelm, we talked a lot about that in part 1, are kind of more visible, but it is every bit as important to look at the other side of being outside of the window of tolerance. People can look really calm, cool, and collected, and actually be in a state of disconnect and numbing out. Again, um, struggling to accept and feel those feelings. People can sometimes cut off signals from their own body. And confuse that with being in a regulated state, but actually it's a way of um, not coping well with that feeling of distress and that feeling of overwhelm, every bit as much as doing something impulsive and reaching for whatever maladaptive behavior that doesn't help us. Um, those are the two sides of the same coin. And if you're curious about learning more about the role that the body can play in this and some of the science, I would really recommend checking out the classic book, The Body Keeps the Score, because working well with the body is instrumental in getting that window of tolerance seen in the above to be kind of more flexible and resilient as seen below. So as we start to talk about the body in trauma healing, I just want to acknowledge that it's also critical to talk about the body politic. There is a very valid critique from marginalized communities about the philosophies of trauma healing, talking about how we first have to create safety in order to heal from trauma, when many communities are under a lot of threat. Um, and a constant slow structural violence that makes that harder to access, and addressing that is part of my ethical frame as a practitioner, as a Northern nurse. And I just wanted to bring into the room a quote by Martin Luther King when he talks about building the beloved community. Um, Justice can be conceived of as the line within which people can be gentle towards each other because those slow forms of violence and overt forms of violence aren't tolerated. The end is reconciliation, the end is redemption, the end is the creation of the beloved community. It is this type of spirit and this type of love that can transform opponents into friends. It is this type of understanding goodwill that will transform the deep gloom of the old age into the exuberant gladness of the new age. It is this love that will bring about miracles in the hearts of men. Um, so I leave that for greater food for thought and just acknowledging the critique that is out there because it's part of having a greater, more holistic dialogue and having a more fuller understanding and acknowledgement of the many of the political roots of trauma, and healing the body and healing our body politic collectively. Okay, so that is plenty of information and plenty of food for thought for now. So if you need to pause, get a drink of water, stretch, these are little workout sessions for the brain to learn new information. Take care of yourself. Justice is mediated by the body, healing is mediated by the body. So we're going to transition to the next part of the presentation, which is just nuts and bolts information about physical health and how that can support mental health and social health. So sleep is the foundation of mental health. It's because neurons are repaired and restored during deep wave sleep cycles, and that's when dendritic growth can happen. So those are when the neurons kind of branch out and make and consolidate new neural pathways. It's also when the brain cleans itself. It has little janitors that come in at night and kind of sweep things up. So there's a lot of information about sleep hygiene, but this is a pretty good checklist. And when in doubt, start waking up at the same time every day. I know it can be really hard, but start there. If you if you are struggling to fall asleep or if you wake up in the middle of the night, try to get up and try again. You don't want to program your brain to associate your bed with a place that you toss and turn and are miserable. And hand in hand with sleep, a massive study published recently with about 5,000 participants looked at how exercise is about as effective in treating moderate depression as medication. So getting regular physical activity will decrease depressive symptoms. Exercise, something that raises your heart rate and ideally combines a little bit of strength training, not only increases the happy chemicals, it also increases something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. That's a mouthful. It's basically like fertilizer for neuron growth. So try walking every day. Try something that makes you happy. Get an exercise buddy if you can. It's low cost, it's accessible, and it has very few side effects and a lot of benefits. Always check in with a health provider to know what's right for you, but this is a good place to start and it'll help you sleep. And don't forget to stretch. Stretching is vital. There's a yoga series coming up at the end of this video just to underline that point. When the body anticipates a threat, it can start something called muscular guarding, where you unconsciously tense your muscles. This can be such an ingrained habit that we don't even realize that we're doing it, and then we are surprised when we get tension headaches and chronic pain, and not realize that there is actually, that's part of the physiological set point of trauma that we can address by working with our physical health skillfully. And just before miscommunicates, medication is there for a reason, and it can be a great support in calming down the nervous system to make this work more accessible. So better living through chemistry. That's all I'm going to say on that. We talked a little bit earlier about how energy kind of goes in a boom and bust when we're outside of our window of tolerance. So we want to eat in a way that will stabilize energy. Blood sugar is an important thing to stabilize. So having a low GI, a glycemic index, it's basically a measure of how fast sugar hits your bloodstream when you're digesting a certain food. You want to opt for things with fiber and good healthy fats and protein. Ideally, working with a registered dietitian. A lot of employee assistance programs have that, but if not, fruits, vegetables, balanced diet is a good place to start. A lot of people find that certain foods impact their mood. So if you think that might be the case for you, it takes about 2 weeks after something is eliminated from your diet to really see if that's something that's giving you trouble. So you can experiment with that little by little. You know, some people say when they eliminate wheat and dairy and or whatever it might be from their diet that they feel a little bit better. So check out what's right for you. You are your own best source of data. And this is a little known fact about anxiety and depression, is that they're actually neuroinflammatory conditions, and something that really helps neuroinflammatory condition is having a good healthy gut microbiome. The microbiome gut-brain axis, it's kind of like a two-way communication system between your gut and your brain and the immune system. A healthy gut bacteria really help regulate the immune system and reduce inflammation. And remember that strange sounding chemical BDNF, it promotes that, which supports the growth and survival of brain cells. When this ecosystem internally is disrupted, it's called dysbiosis, and dysbiosis increases inflammation in the gut and brain. It reduces that brain fertilizer, and it can kind of contribute to like fuzzy thinking, memory problems, and a lot of just stuff that we want to minimize. So chronic stress can really impact gut health, really impact inflammation. They've even studied people who are in high conflict relationships actually can have a higher tendency to have dysbiosis. So what can we do to support this? Check out again, eat fiber. You can look at prebiotics. The stomach disinfects food. So a lot of the $70 bottles of probiotics you're going to get from the store, $68 worth of that is going to be killed by stomach acid if you swallow it. So you can find some of the ones with enteric coating, or you can just eat yogurt. Yogurt neutralizes some of the stomach acid, lets more of the probiotic goodness get to the gut. Try swapping out kefir with milk with your cereal. Again, you know what's best for you. If you have any lactose intolerances, whatever. but it's a good thing to remember. Also, drinking enough water is important for your gut. And yeah, check it out. It's pretty fascinating. Our gut actually has as much neuron tissue as a cat's brain. So, microbiota, gut-brain axis, inflammation, it's a vital, little known side of mental health. Check it out. So, feeling a lack of social connection is kind of an epidemic right now, and it's also a major part of one of the major symptoms of trauma. Isolation and shame are the henchmen of trauma. Don't obey them. Lacking social connection is about as dangerous as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. The last US Surgeon General had a major push to try to promote healthy connection between people because it is so important for health, and showing up for constants where you can be nearby and have a sense of regular meeting people can go a long way in, I think it's about like 200 hours of proximity and connection for somebody to start to feel like a good close friend, according to The Science of Friendship, which is a great book. Um, and don't be discouraged. Where there is no love, put love, and you will find love. And the importance of fun cannot be underscored. We talk a lot about mindfulness, and sometimes we don't talk about the value of good, healthy, mindless distraction. Throw yourself into a craft project, throw yourself into something fun. Um, Sometimes trying to learn about trauma and figure out mental health can feel a little bit like a puppy chasing its own tail, and we can just kind of spin and spin and spin and spin around that. And it's good to, you know, in the words of Carl Jung, art is a pair of wings that can lift us out of our own entanglement. So you may not be an artist, that may not resonate for you, but you can always find a pair of wings somewhere, be it literature, be it art, be it playing soccer, be it macrame, like whatever it is. Good, healthy fun and connection are vital. We're going to talk now a little bit about dialectical behavioral therapy. It is a good collection of skills and techniques that a lot are body-based and mindfulness-based practices, concrete skills that you can learn that really open up a new lifestyle to adopt and adapt to in the trauma healing journey. It was made by Marsha Linehan, who studied Zen Buddhism for many, many years and found a way to make the philosophy accessible and usable by many people. Her work can be a little bit dense sometimes, but this is a book, Calming the Emotional Storm, that is really helpful to read. You can read it in an afternoon. It'll summarize the philosophy for you, and it's a new way of living. And if you can't afford any of the myriad workbooks, I put all of the vital worksheets in a Google Drive. Again, because this DBT is originally sourced from Dharma. It's a wisdom tradition, and it goes against the wisdom tradition to sell the teachings. So Marsha Linehan has authorized us to reproduce her work for non-commercial purposes. So it's all right there. But do you know that DBT is designed to be a class that you take over 24 weeks with a group of other people, with homework, and that community-based practice is really vital. It breaks shame and isolation, and it also gives people time to practice and integrate the skills. You do the 24 weeks once, then you should do it again because it helps ingrain it. Why is this important? Why is that a practice that can be helpful? Let's talk a little bit about trauma-induced neurodiversity. So on the left-hand side, you see a neutral face, and this is a person who's just staring forward, and the above slide is a control group, and the below slide are the brain scans of somebody with complex chronic trauma, and all of the places that are lit up in those brain scans are fear. And underneath that face, you can see this is a different brain scan. The person on the right-hand side without activity is, it shows that they can't extinguish this fear response. So the prefrontal cortex that comes online to think and logic through a situation that is not actually threatening but may initially appear threatening don't come online, right? So that part of presentation one, when we looked at triggered feelings, blow up and take a really long time to dissolve. It's actually a form of neurodiversity. And knowing this, understanding it, accepting it at face value kind of gives you more of a logical perspective of saying, oh, okay, I don't regulate from the inside out like that control brain without that's not lighting up like a Christmas tree. I maybe I have a brain that looks kind of maybe like the bottom that's like, you know, all lit up like the 4th of July. Um, I'm going to have to regulate from the outside in with some of these body practices that you learn in DBT, that we can reinforce through diet and good care of physical health. And there's a lot of ways that brains can be diverse. People who are on the spectrum, for instance, maybe sometimes don't intuitively know all the social rules in a given situation. But they learn them and then they can logic their way through some of those complex social milieu. And this is kind of the trauma-induced neurodiversity that you can see with emotional regulation. And there's something that can be done about it. Like, brains are diverse. We learn how to adapt. We accept them as they are. We work with what we got. And a lot is possible once we understand that. So when we're outside of our window of tolerance, not a whole lot of activity of enduring therapeutic value can happen. Um, a therapist can help co-regulate a person in a therapeutic space, but learning those skills, taking that good, healthy co-regulation in a healing space and taking it into your life to really have the maximum benefit, kind of create a positive cycle, is going to be really well supported if you start to get serious about learning some of these skills if it resonates for you. It doesn't have to resonate for you. These are all workbooks. I've looked at dialectical behavioral therapy for CPTSD does a really good job of addressing dissociation that can look like being calm and regulated but isn't. The DBT skills manual for adolescents, many people prefer to the Linehan workbook because it's a lot more like intuitive and laid out in a way that's understandable. And our attention span has kind of gone down as a society in the past 10 years. So like, if we could find a way to make this easier, just go for it. And I'll just tell you a personal anecdote from my own life. I had a really serious concussion. As a nurse, I've been teaching these skills to people in distress for a long time. And then I had a concussion that took about 2 years to get me to a point where I could read again comfortably. And when I came to, I realized that I did not have the same brain after that concussion as before. So I had to eat a slice of humble pie and work on this myself. And it helped a lot. So I offer this. That doesn't have to be true for you. Life is a choose your own adventure. But I offer this because I know personally the value of it. And I want to see you succeed and be well and get to that wonderful, juicy place of post-traumatic growth, because it is possible and people get there every day. And here's a little dose of proof positive that good things are possible. So um, this is a study coming out of the University of Wisconsin that even a little bit of mindfulness practice really benefits the brain. You can see the difference of the brain scans there. That's your brain without meditation. That's your brain with a little meditation. It's a good thing. You don't have to engage in a formal mindfulness practice, but a lot of the DBT skills will really teach you how to engage informally in a way that makes sense. And remember, mindfulness comes from a really big, vast wisdom tradition. We get kind of a watered down form of it in Western psychotherapy, but there's a lot of other disciplines around ethics and around being prepared to engage mindfulness well. It might not be accessible to everyone depending on where the trauma, where you're at in your journey. But the more present we can be, the less pain we have. Um, Otherwise, we're dragging the pain from the past and the projected pain of the future into the present moment. So learning how to be where our feet are is really vital. And it can be a little bit scary sometimes because that means that we have to accept some tough emotions that might be there as we're mindful of those emotions. But the combination of radical acceptance of what we're feeling, whatever we are feeling is always valid. Our interpretations of events might need some work, but whatever we're feeling is exactly how we should be feeling. So we accept that, we're mindful of that, we come into the present, and you can work with some of those flashback protocols from part 1. This is more data to show that it really does work. Mindfulness works not only for emotional pain, but also physical pain. Check out those brain scans. It's good news. Those are conscious choices that people are making to influence their own recovery. Again, nobody chooses to inherit a bunch of trauma. Nobody chooses to struggle in these ways, but we are the only people that can affect our own recovery. Nobody can do it for us. We also can't do it alone. That's why I try to make videos like this, because it's encouraging, it's good news, and all of this comes from a community of people that you don't know that you belong to, that are working on healing and working towards recovery, and needs to be celebrated because you're going to get there. Just keep going. So just a juicy poetic interlude on that topic by Rupi Kaur. I want a parade. I want music. I want confetti. I want a marching band for the ones surviving in silence. I want a standing ovation for every person who wakes up and moves towards the sun when there is a shadow pulling them back on the inside. Keep going. You got this. And understanding a little bit more about trauma-induced neurodiversity and what you can do about it is a good pathway forward on some of the skills you can start learning about on how to do that. So DBT is broken into distress tolerance skills that works with hyperarousal, mindfulness skills that work with the hypoarousal, and then emotional regulation skills that work with that middle. It's really common for survivors of trauma to have less emotional vocabulary and more difficulty identifying feelings as they come up and knowing what to do with them, and knowing, to see if they fit the facts and how intense they should be. So these are all concrete things that help people do that. And each side, most all those skills align with something that we learned in part 1, which is the tripartite model of the brain. So when we're having a trauma response, our reptile brain can gun our respiratory rate and our heartbeat. So some of the breathing activities in DBT get a hold of the brainstem. The activating the mammalian diving reflex. It's a way of tricking your body into thinking that you're drowning to to bring your heart rate down. You just have to get cold water across your forehead and down around your ears, splash cold water on your face. It'll stop the flow of cortisol in the body that your little reptile brain is like pumping out to try and save you because it thinks you might be in a lake somewhere. Great hack. You can encourage a friend to do that when you see a friend spinning out. Again, the limbic system, remember how we talked about how that emotion mammalian brain doesn't have words, but it has access to senses. So those grounding activities of, like with little kids playing I Spy with my little eye, keying into our visual senses, or You could do I spy with my little eye, I smell with my little nose, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding activities. They they can access that mammalian brain and calm it down. Um, and then again, lots of the activities in DBT really help strengthen the thinking brain, which we saw wasn't coming online in one of those brain scans in the same way. So you strengthen that, you train that, and you work from the outside in to get your thinking brain and your noticing brain back online in helpful ways. Um, with mindfulness, sometimes the best place to start is to start to describe in your mind your surroundings as you observe them, and then throw yourself into participating in them, because that can address the subtle disconnect, the kind of subtle spacing out that can happen when trauma is coming up in the moment. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because other people in the great internet world have put all this information online. I want to point out Complex Needs Service of East Cheshire, because I vetted her work for quality. She's got about 60% of the DBT curriculum up in a format that's free. I also want to highlight the importance of behavior chain analysis. That is a tool that will give you direct insight into what you might be doing that's not helpful, and how to shift and how to really work with some of these skills to get them inserted in places that are helpful for you. Always encourage you to work with a friend, work with a healthcare provider, take a class on this if you can. The best way to learn this, practice this, and reinforce it is in community. And it's a good place to learn the fourth module of DBT, which is interpersonal effectiveness. Traumatizing homes don't exactly teach the best people skills or emotional regulation skills. There's no shame in learning it later in life. Okay, so we're gonna just pause here and just do a little breathing experiment. So I want you to inhale quickly twice and sigh with me. And again, inhale quickly twice and sigh. Feels a little bit refreshing. It's because it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Now touch your thumb tips together and bring your hands in a butterfly across your chest. And just tap either side of your chest as you breathe. It's a butterfly breath. You feel yourself kind of subtly numbing out. It can be helpful. When you feel yourself kind of subtly spinning out, inhaling twice and sighing can be helpful. And just put your forearms on your knees, lower your head down. Just notice how that's subtly soothing. Those subtle inversions are really good for calming the body-mind. And come back to your chair. And if you want, go ahead and try bee breathing with me. Humming activates the vagus nerve, which is the body's natural brake for stress. So plug your ears with your thumbs. You're going to inhale for 4, exhale for 7, and hum on your exhale. So inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, exhale, hum. 6, 7. You can try that a couple more times if you want. If you find your thoughts are spinning out, filling your head with a big humming, loud bumblebee sound, good way to kind of calm them down and just say, no, I don't want to go there right now. And that transitions us into a good setup for part 2 of trauma-informed art therapy. We're going to talk about all of these things in the next video. But tiny little practices like that start to add up and things do change for the better. So I'll leave you with this quote: "The more you know yourself, the more clarity there is. Self-knowledge has no end. You don't achieve, you don't come to a conclusion. It is an endless river." Krishnamurti. So now's the point where we're going to transition into a yoga practice. If you want to join me for that, pause, get a mat, a couple yoga blocks, bolster, blanket, whatever works for you, strap. Things around the house work great. If you don't own those things, well, pillows, whatever. If you want to try the cold water technique in the final relaxation, get a little bowl of ice water and a washcloth, and you can put that over your head during relaxation, and you'll notice how that helps you relax and kind of rest in a final resting pose. Always work with a healthcare provider to know what kind of exercise is right for you. And take what you like, leave the rest. All of this is optional. It's just for a healthy exploration for a body practice that many people have found useful in their healing journeys. But you'll always invited to find whatever works for you: dancing, biking, swimming, singing in a choir. Many people love to do. And yoga is a classic. So join me in a couple seconds. Welcome everyone. Join me in Sukhasana, easy pose. You can sit on a bolster, letting your hips tilt forward if your hips are tight today, leaving a little bit of space between your shins and your pelvis, crown reaching long. And we'll arrive on the mat for a few inhales and exhales, making the exhalation long. Today we're going to be practicing in the spirit of brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is one of the ethical disciplines upon which mindfulness rests. Many of the mindfulness practices that are trickling into Western psychotherapy actually come from very ancient wisdom traditions and are built on strong ethical foundations. And brahmacharya is one from the 8 limbs of yoga. It's a reminder to exercise restraint and moderation for the wise use of our energy, so our energy can be directed. This is, of course, goes hand in hand with the emotional regulation skills that we've learned elsewhere in the video, and so we'll learn it from a different angle today. And now bring your hands into Jnana Mudra, bringing your index finger and your thumb together, resting them on the thighs, breathing evenly. The index finger represents our small individual psyche, and the thumb represents the vastness of our collective mind and spirit, which meet in the present moment, allowing us to seek peace here and now. And bring the middle finger of your right hand up to the middle of your forehead for Nadi Shodhana Pranayama. Block your right nostril with your thumb, inhaling through the left nostril for 4. Change, block the left nostril, exhale through the right nostril. Inhale through the right nostril. Change sides. Exhale left nostril. Inhale left nostril. Change sides. Exhale right nostril. And return Jnana Mudra to rest on the thighs. Notice any changes in your breathing. Arrive at the mat. Scan the body for tension. And gently together, we'll rise to Tadasana, mountain pose. Feet hip width apart, underneath the hips, feet parallel. Crown long, drawing the navel in, shine the palms forward. Tadasana is the pose of not being pulled towards the future in worry or towards the past in regret, but being here now. And arrive. And inhale, bring the arms up. Pull down through the heart center, folding into Uttanasana. Standing forward fold. You can rest your hands on a block or a bolster if you wish, or on the shins. Let the head hang heavy. Drawing the navel in, gently fall forward. No force is needed here. And on an inhale, rise, halfway lift. Reaching the crown of the head forward. Flat back, parallel to the ceiling. And inhale. And exhale down to plank. And in this position in plank, you can lower your knees if that's more comfortable for you. But arrive at plank, one long, strong line through the body. Strong and long, head reaches forward, palms are underneath the shoulders, navel draws in. Breathe, feeling the intensity. And you can go into a full Chaturanga Dandasana, meeting me at the belly. Or you can drop your knees, roll your chest forward into Cobra. Pubic bone grounds to the floor. Navel draws in. Shoulder blades zip together, neck remains long. And feel free to take Sphinx pose here for ease and comfort to protect the low back. Or raise the arms in cactus for greater challenge. Inhale and exhale, plant the palms, send the hips back to child pose, Balasana. Widen the knees to make room for the belly. Rest the forehead on the ground. If you'd like to stay in a restorative posture, you can drape the torso over a bolster and stretch. Feel free to bring your arms to either side if you'd like a deeper stretch. And on your next inhale, tuck your toes, plant your palms, send your hips up and back to the ceiling to downward facing dog. Palms, weight spread evenly between the fingers. Arms with a micro bend emanating straight from the shoulders. Pull the chest towards the thighs. You can walk the dog, stretching alternate sides if you wish. Enjoy a nice deep stretch here. And on your next inhale, plant your right foot between your palms. Plant your left foot at a 45-degree angle. Inhale, arms up to warrior one. You can shorten your stance here for comfort. The right heel should be in line with the middle of your left arch. Arms reaching high to the sky, hugging shoulders and arms to the ears, shining the hips forward like headlights, and breathe. You can bring the hands to heart center in Warrior One or to hips for a slightly gentler pose. Instead of the full expression, keeping arms raised. And on the next exhale, blossom the arms open to Warrior Two, keeping both arms parallel to the floor. Your feet are still planted in an active stance, left edge of the foot fully grounded on the floor. Either hand reaching opposite sides of the wall. Your eyes gazes gently over your front right fingertips. And on your next exhale, plant your right forearm on your right thigh. Reach your left arm forward in a long straight line of extended side angle. Your knee should be tracking over your ankle. Your arm is hugging to your ear. You're looking for length and extension. And on your next inhale, inhale back to Warrior Two. Knee tracking over ankle, arms parallel to the floor, reaching to either side. And straighten your front right leg, reach your right arm forward, coming down into triangle pose. You can rest your right arm on your shin or on a block. Left hand extends up to the ceiling. Avoid the temptation to collapse on the front hip. You can turn and gaze up at your fingers. Lightly pass them to the ceiling for a drishti, or at the floor for greater steadiness. And on your next inhale, inhale up, returning to Warrior Two. And bring the feet together to standing forward fold. Letting the head hang heavy here. And slowly roll up. Bringing hands to either side. Inhale. Exhale, hands to either side of the heart. And open in Tadasana, mountain pose. Take a breath. Inhale. And exhale, swing the arms up to an angle and send your hips back into chair. Knees are still tracking over the ankles. You can adjust your seat to whatever comfort level, higher or lower, feels right for you today. Hug the arms into the ears, keeping the spine long, neck soft. Reach. And inhale up, letting the hands fall. Back to Tadasana. And we'll repeat the flow on the left-hand side. So step your right foot back to Warrior One. Left heel in line with the back right arch. Arms either up at heart center or at the hips according to your comfort level. Long and strong, hips shining forward. And inhale, blossom to Warrior Two. Arms parallel to the floor. Gaze lightly over your front fingertips. Arms stretched to opposite sides of the room. Knee is still tracking over ankle. Inhale and exhale to left side angle. Left forearm is on your thigh. Right arm hugs to the ear. Reaching, reaching. One long, strong line from the tips of your fingers to the grounded right edge of your foot. Long and strong. And inhale, back to warrior two. Gazing towards the front of the room. Arms parallel to the floor, knee over ankle. And gently straighten the left leg, keeping a gentle micro bend. Reach the left arm forward before pivoting down, either to the block or the shin. Into triangle pose. Arms are straight. Avoid collapsing on the front hip. You can gaze down at the floor for more steadiness, or up at your fingertips for more of a balance challenge, your choice. And on your next exhale, inhale, bring your feet together, pivot down into a forward fold. Let the head hang heavy. No need to force depth. You can bend your knees. If it's hard to reach the floor, you can also put your hands on a block for comfort. If the hamstrings are tight. And on your inhale, slowly roll up. Breathing the arms up. Exhaling through heart center. And letting the arms, palms forward, shine at either side. Navel reaching to spine, crown reaching long. Tadasana. And inhale, sweep the arms forward. Send the hips back to chair pose. Knees tracking over ankles. Sit as far back or forward as you need. No need to force. And exhale to forward fold, releasing the neck. And one last time, inhale, bringing the arms overhead, through heart center, exhaling to Tadasana. Taking a moment to notice the subtle changes in your breath. Exercise is a way to release adrenaline. Breathing consciously is a way to calm the nervous system. And gently join me once again in easy pose. Feel free to use a bolster if your hips are tight. And start an easy pose. Assume the Jnana Mudra once more. Thumb and index finger touch. Crown reaches long. Grounding through the sits bones, sending the weight evenly through the hips. Inhale. And exhale. Bring the soles of the feet together for Baddha Konasana, butterfly pose. You're welcome to use pillows on either side of your knees to make this a restorative, supportive pose. Place the hands on the shins or on the feet, wherever is comfortable. And you're welcome to stay here and rest, feeling the deliciousness of the inner thigh stretch, or lean forward. Straight spine, crown is long. Easy, easy, easy. And inhale. Good. And we'll remove the bolster. Place the pillows to the side for later use. And we're going to gently roll down one vertebra at a time. Give our knees a nice hug, rocking side to side. Bring your knees slightly open to make room for the belly. And we'll move to happy baby pose. So in happy baby pose, you can grab either the inside or the outside of the feet, or use your peace fingers, or grab your shins. And gently open the legs, drawing the toes back towards the ears, drawing the corners of the mouth up towards the ears. It's called happy baby for a reason. You can do this one leg at a time if it's feeling too challenging. But just enjoy a deep, rich stretch. Gentle, gentle, easy, easy. And when you're ready, bring your knees back to center. Rock side to side once more. You're going to bring your arms to a T. And as your arms are in a T position, you're going to gently ground through the shoulders and let your right knee move towards the ground, keeping your left shoulder connected, and tilt your head towards the left-hand side. You're welcome to put a pillow between your knees, to cradle the hips, and inhale, and exhale a little bit deeper, forcing nothing. Again, inhale, and exhale, and inhale once more, lifting the knees back to neutral, and go to the opposite side, letting your left knee fall to the floor, using a pillow between the knees to cradle the hips if needed. And looking towards the right-hand side. And inhale. Inhale your knees to your chest, rocking back and forth, massaging the low back. Bring your head into a nice line in line with your spine. We're going to prepare for Shavasana. It can be good to have a bolster under your knees to support the low back. If you wish to have a pillow or a folded blanket, feel free. Whatever you need for your Shavasana. We're going to start with a progressive muscle relaxation. So start by curling your toes, flexing the muscles of your feet, and bringing them up towards the shins, flexing the muscles of the calf, and still keeping them tense. We're going to zip the thighs together, flexing the thigh muscles, flex the hips and the glutes, tensing all of the muscles of the low body. And flex the abdominals. Round the shoulders in, make balls out of the fists. Curl the biceps together, bring the neck in. And now pinch all of the muscles in the face like you've just eaten a lemon. Hold. And release. 2, 3, 4, 5. Progressive muscle relaxations wring any of the remaining tension from the body, preparing you for a restful state. This practice is about moving through intensity, not reacting to it. Noticing how we can impact our physiology to take hold of our psychology and seeking greater peace. So just take a moment and take a few minutes in silence to absorb all the benefits of your practice. Closing your eyes if you feel comfortable. Watching your thoughts float by like leaves on a river, like clouds on the sky. Watching without reacting. And rest. And slowly start to bring some movement to your fingertips. Roll your wrists. Stretch one arm over to one side. Stretch the other side. And slowly roll to one side, resting the head on the extended arm. Inhale and exhale to seated. Coming back to easy pose and Jnana Mudra. The root word for shalom and salam is Om, the sound of creation, an ancient prayer for many people. Shanti is the word for deep peace. Peace within ourselves, within our relationship, and within the living, breathing world that we share. We bring our hands to heart center. Say Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you for sharing your practice, and peace be with you. Here's some more good stuff to check out. Bye for now.